What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Second Guessan with Stressan. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest. You guys know him, Big Sarge. Big Sarge, how you doing? Welcome.
Hey, what's going on, man? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a lot, man. It's been a long time coming. I know we kind of, talked about it, sometime last year, but
Yeah.
I'm learning as I'm kind of getting into your world to an extent that it's a busy world, man. I mean, it's a 24/7 news cycle, and I can't imagine. I mean, do you agree with that?
Oh, for sure, man. I'll tell you, look, even just today alone, man, I've been to a Nick Caserio press conference, left the Nick Caserio press conference, had to shoot over to the Rockets practice facility because they had their first official postseason practice. Now they know who they're playing against the Golden State Warriors starting on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a very busy day, for myself ripping and running. And then, also getting ready to record with John Hickman, the co-host of the Locked On Texans podcast. So yeah, man, it's been a long day, but I will say this, man. If I make a commitment, if I say that I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. So there's no such thing as, man, I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that. No, we don't do that over here, man. We make sure that we stick to our commitments and our engagement. And I was looking forward to being on this show, man. I was like,
Yeah.
So look, so Nick Caserio and the Rockets tried to mess up this my appearance, but I wasn't gonna let them stop me.
Well, it makes for good content now. So now we got more stuff to talk about. And there was a funny viral clip that happened today. I guess we can address that first, and then I'll kind of backtrack and ask about your personal background. But I mean, there was a clip that went viral today. I believe you were asking him. People said they've talked about mistakes, and he kind of cut you off, and then like had like a funny, witty, cussing remark. Can you kind of go over that, like what your reaction was and your thoughts on it?
Well, because earlier in the press conference, he said, there's a lot of mistakes have been made, and he raised his hands. He's like, "Look, I've made a lot of mistakes since I've been here." So I remember that, and I've been covering Nick Caserio since he got to the Houston Texans, and so I was just like, "Well, I know the mistakes that I think that you made." And so when I asked him the question, I said, you said you made him a lot of mistakes here earlier. I'm not going to ask you what those mistakes are. And that's when he's like, you guys effing talk about it all the time. And I said, and the rest of the question was, but what have you learned from those mistakes, and how will they help you, with this draft process? Because one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that, you look at a general manager like Nick Caserio, and you give him a very hard time. I know, like, there's a lot of people that do. I give him a hard time sometimes, but you also got to realize that when Nick Caserio took over this franchise, he was his first time being a general manager, and this was a franchise that Bill O'Brien had burnt to the ground. And so on the Locked On Texans podcast, I made the example of Nick Caserio being in New England, buying a house in Houston, seeing the pictures and everything, seeing all of the pictures of the house. And then he closes on the house, get the big key that says, new homeowner. He got a welcome home mat, and he gets to the address and it's burned to the ground. And now you're asking yourself, hey, what happened to the house that I seen online? And now it's burned to the ground. And so now Nick has to rebuild this house. And I mean, he's not into construction. He's not into all of that. And so that's why, when I look at him and I say, some of the mistakes that he's made as far as drafting free agents and coaching hirings, it's just one of those things where you're like, you got to give him a little leeway. But now that he's finally got it right by hiring D'Amico Ryans, it's starting to all come together. And you can see what the Houston Texans organization saw in him from the beginning, where, they almost got tampering charges. But that's another story for another time.
Well, I mean, you bring up some good points. Like again, just like D'Amico too, like we've all, had our critiques of him, like, and as we should, like, when you're in those positions, like, and you're a public job, like, it comes with the territory, and they understand that, I'm sure. But to your point though, like, this is his first time, and not only was his first time, but his first time was like a reclamation project, which is hard for any GM, much less a first timer. So I'm glad you pointed that out. But over on Instagram, we got B Scott from 610. He said, two good guys here. So shout out B Scott for tapping in.
From the block. He also had a very good question today at the press conference as well.
What was B Scott's question?
Ooh, now you're putting me on the spot. Hold on.
Oh, you're good. Well, because I struggle because I try and like credit journalists and tag you guys when I can hear, but sometimes I try to too confident in knowing whose voice is who, and I get the wrong person, but from YouTube sometimes.
B. Scott asked how he asked Nick Cassero on how he goes about identifying guys in the draft that can catch up quickly and be able to compete.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, B. Scott asked a very good question today as well.
Oh, I will say this before we get to know more about you, but one thing I've noticed from like tuning into these press conferences for pretty much my whole life, like so basically what I'm doing now, I've done my whole life. I've always been an observer. Now I'm just taking the extra step to kind of share what I find interesting. But
Sure.
But now that I'm like really into it, like I've noticed like we have great media, like yourself, obviously, but everyone there. I mean, y'all ask great questions, thoughtful, insightful questions. Y'all aren't afraid to ask the tough questions, but are still respectful. And so like as a fan who like is really in tune, and I know from interacting with other fellow fans, like y'all do a great job helping us get what we want to know. So kudos to you guys on that. That's one thing I've noticed, and I'm sure you could probably attest to that as well, huh?
Oh yeah, man, I definitely appreciate that. And it isn't, it isn't the easiest thing to do sometimes because, okay, so asking Nick a question, all right, because you're like, okay, we're gonna speak to Nick. We're not gonna speak to Nick for another 2 months. So you get every question that you need out while you got him in front of you, so you can get those the questions answered. He's gonna speak at the beginning of training camp. He'll speak at the draft, the beginning of training camp, and then like somewhere in the middle of the season, then at the end of the season. So you're like, cool, you got to get those questions out. Now, when you got to ask D'Amico and talk to D'Amico at least 2 to 3 times a week, and then you got the players that you got to talk to 2 or 3 times a week, you got to make sure that you're asking the tough questions. But so the way that things has changed and manifested in today's society, you have to make sure that the way that you word your question or the way that you ask your question is not a gotcha moment for social media, because all of these players, all of these coaches, they can lie and say they don't have social media. They have social media, or they have somebody in their camp that has social media. And so you got to make sure that the question that you're asking isn't a gotcha moment type question, isn't like you're trying to go viral type question. And so it's just all about the way that you word it, and you're still asking the questions. Like, I'll give you a prime example. And we just talked about this on the Locked On Texans podcast not too long ago. There was a question that I asked Bobby after it was like 2 weeks, I think, after the debacle in the Detroit Lions game. And I asked him, I'm like, because now it's become a pattern where they can't get the second half, the offense going in the second half. And so I asked him a question like, look, what is the adjustments that's not being made? Like, and it was what are the adjustments that are not being made as far as you all being able to score? And why are you able to do it in the first half? You're not able to do it in the second half, but there's a way and that I structured and I answered it. Asked it. And then he was just like, well, there's no secret stuff. And I was like, what? What do you mean there's no secret stuff? Ben Johnson got secret stuff. Kevin O'Connell got secret stuff. What's the coach's name in Cincinnati Bengals?
Zach Taylor.
Yeah, he got secret stuff. Sean McVay got secret stuff. Oh God,
Liam Cohen had it in Tampa.
Cliff Kingsbury. I was gonna say, what's the guy's name with the good hair? Cliff Kingsbury. But I also had to make sure that I didn't ask like, hey Bobby, how come y'all can't score in the second half? Because now you get a point where you want them to answer the question. You don't want them to be on the defense though, and you don't want it to be where now they blow your questions off. A lot of times what I try to tell aspiring journalists and aspiring people who are who want to become part of the media, as long as you use the facts, ask the facts, ask what you see. Anytime you interject your opinion, now your subject matter is like, okay, so we're not talking about the game here. We're talking about what you think I should have done or how it should have been done.
Yeah, and it becomes personal almost.
Yeah, so, but I give a shout out to everybody that's on the beat, man. Everybody that that's on the beat that covers this team. Not only here at home, but on the road. And so you look at a Jonathan Alexander. I can't think of Houston Chronicle. Sam from the Houston Chronicle. I can't think of Sam's last name. DJ BNMA from ESPN.
Been on the show.
Wilson.
Aaron Wilson been on the show, yeah.
You know, and so those are just guys who, man, they make sure that they give you all the best and the most informative Houston Texans knowledge that they can to keep you updated.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, like, again, like, you know, me kind of dipping my toes in this water. I'm not, you know, really a journalist. I'm a fan. Like, I don't even know what I call myself, a content creator, whatever you want to call it. But I have like had like a peek into what y'all do, and I have like a much greater appreciation. Not to say I didn't appreciate what y'all did prior, but now like I really know like the amount of time and effort I'm putting in. Like, man, y'all are doing just as much, if not more. So like, you know, and I try to, you know, announce that, and I think people are aware, but you know, until you kind of like really dive in, like kind of how you are or how I've done myself, like it's hard to truly understand how much time and energy. Just like B. Scott right here says, Big Sarge, hardest working man of Houston sports media. The guy's a machine. Damn Energizer Bunny. Facts, like you just mentioned. Yeah, I mean, just like you said earlier, you were at a presser and then practice, and now you're doing a live stream, and then I'm sure in between you're like me, you're on your phone all day, like interacting and doing stuff. So.
Real quick, let me tell you this. One of the reasons why I am the way that I am is, you know, of course, when I got into this business, you know, I was straight out of the military. I just had retired from the military. So my mindset is always get the mission complete, get the mission complete, get the mission complete. That was one aspect of it. But I'm going to tell you what really made me push harder, what made me work harder. Mark Berman, man. I call myself the Black Mark Berman because when I first got into this business, every time I turned around, Mark Berman was somewhere. And so I'm saying to myself, damn, when does this guy take a break? And so I was like, well, if Mark Berman is out here working, I can't let Mark Berman outwork me. And at the time, I was still young into the game. I wasn't a young man. I was still young in the game. And so I kept looking around. I was like, no, Mark Berman is he out here working. And I mean, it doesn't matter. Community event, game, practice, press conference, whatever it was, Mark Berman was doing it. And Mark Berman was doing it at a rate of, hey, I'm over here right now. I'm over here right now. I'm over here right now. Then he'll go and do the news. And then it seems like he doesn't sleep. And then he's up again and he's doing stuff. And I was just like, yeah, man, I can't let Mark outwork me. So when he retired, and they did the thing for him at NRG, where the Texans gave him that ceremony for him retiring. Now, afterwards, I met his wife for the first time, and I said, you know, that's a hardworking man. I said, and that's why I call myself the Black Mark Berman. And she just bust out laughing. All the time. Hey, man, you're not the Black Mark Berman. You just Big Sarge. I said, all right, I'm the Black Mark Berman.
Well, hey, I mean, it's kind of like D'Amico. That's iron sharpening iron right there, right? Yeah. I mean, so he kind of set like the bar, and you kind of had to meet it, you know, and as a result, us fans, I think, are the beneficiaries of that also. That's a cool story.
One day when I come back, remind me of this. One day when I come back, I'm gonna tell you what I told D'Amico about how he owes me residuals for the iron sharpens iron.
Oh, you can do it right now. He kind of took your saying or what?
So. He didn't take my saying per se, but there was a video. I took a video, and I can't remember when it was. It had to be 20. The D'Amico got here in what, 2023? Mm-hmm. So this had to be 2022, and I forgot. I have to go back and I have to look at the players because give me 1 second. I had to go back and look at the players because. One day I told D'Amico, I said, hey, man, you know your iron sharpens iron mantra? I said, you know that was mine first. And he's like, what do you mean that was yours first, Sarge? Here it is right here. And it's on X, as a matter of fact. I had iron sharpens iron. After practice, wide receiver Brandon Cooks and defensive back Derek Sting is still working on getting better, right? So that tells you how long ago it was because Brandon Cooks was here. So I told D'Amico, also, hey, D'Amico, you know that was mine first. So, you know, any residuals that comes from that mantra needs to come my way. And he started laughing and he turned to me and he looked and he said, Sarge, I've been using that for a long time. But, I mean, if you want a couple of dollars, all you gotta do is put on some pants. I'll make sure you get it. So I was like, hell no, I'm too old to be putting on pads. So it was crazy, man. And that's just the type of relationship that that I built with a guy like D'Amico Ryans, man. He's one of the best guys you ever want to meet. Away from, a lot of people see him at the podium and see him in these press conferences, man. But D'Amico, away from all of that, oh my God, bro. He'd be a guy you'd be sitting at the sports bar with. And if you didn't know who he was, you'd be like, damn, I just met a friend.
That's crazy. So like that's something I've always kind of wondered too. Like, and obviously you can enlighten me on this, because you're in that realm. But is it tough to kind of have like or I guess for D'Amico, does he do a good job of like obviously like when he's on the podium, y'all are like grilling him, and like I'm sure too when it's like after a loss, y'all are asking the hard hitting questions, and like I would probably be pissed if I was him, like if y'all were asking some questions, but like he has a way of like flipping that, and like when he sees y'all outside of that, like where it's still cool, like is there any kind of like grudges held over at all? Or like it sounds like he just kind of flips a switch and like that's this little mode, and then everyone knows outside of that you can be normal.
Yeah, because D'Amico is one of those people where he knows that it's just business. That's all it is. He knows that he has a job to do in making sure that the Houston Texans are the best team when they're on the field, and he knows that we have a job to ask him the questions about what the Houston Texans do on the field. And so he never takes it personal. As a matter of fact, so we talked to D'Amico after we talked to him post game, and then we'll talk to him like the day after. So we'll talk to him Sunday after the game. We'll talk to him Monday. We talk to him Tuesday or Wednesday, and then we talk to him Monday. They have an off day on Tuesday. We talk to him on Wednesday because on Wednesday, him and CJ talk, and then Thursdays the coordinators talk. But on Fridays, we have what we call off the record. So we get a chance to talk to D'Amico off the record every Friday. And that's when you could see, the difference when he's just sitting, relaxed, talking, it's off the record. Ain't nobody got no notes. Nobody got a camera. Nobody is tweeting and putting anything out on social media. Now we're just talking. So, you asking questions. Like I remember sometimes one person asked me, like, hey man, who's your favorite gospel group? Or, hey man, how's the kids? Your wife just had a baby, man. What is that like? And, then there may be some football questions. Hey, look, man, you told us blase this, blase that during the week. What went into that? And then, sometimes he'll tell us, sometimes he won't. Some things he just has to keep to himself. So he's one of those guys that is very. I'm gonna tell you a story. I haven't told this story nowhere else before, so I'll give it to you.
All right, exclusive.
So we were in New Orleans for the last preseason game, right? We was in New Orleans for the last preseason game, D'Amico's first year here, right? And so my wife is on the inside checking us out of the hotel. So I'm at the car, the hood up, I'm putting the bags in the car, and all I hear is, Big Sarge. So when I hear that, right, anytime I hear somebody say Big Sarge or say my government name, Brian, I especially a male voice, I stop and I freeze and I'll be like, okay, I'm hoping that I never did anything to their sister. That nobody is gonna say, Big Sarge, you've been served, and give me some court papers about child I never knew I had and now I'm getting served for child support. 3, what? Like, did I say something online that pissed somebody off and now they found where I'm at? So I freeze for a second, and then I turn and I look, and it's D'Amico across the street. He's just out walking, right? He's just out walking. This is the day of the game. He's just out walking, right? So I'm like, what's up, coach? So I go over there, and D'Amico and I are standing on the sidewalk, right? And it just looks like, if you don't know that that's D'Amico Ryans, it just looks like two dudes having a conversation because we laugh, we joke, we talked about everything. But D'Amico, I didn't see D'Amico. D'Amico seen me, and so that's the type of person he is, though. But it comes from his. And what I mean, the type of person that he is, he's just like, hey, what's going on, Sarge? Blase this, blase that. We have a conversation, but that comes from his background and his roots coming out of Alabama. He's always been that humble type of person growing up. And so he is now who he was, when he played for the Texans, when he played for Alabama, when he was coming out of Bessemer, Alabama, which, by the way, hey, do you know the other people that are famous out of Bessemer, Alabama, besides D'Amico?
Man, I know I heard this because I know they talked about it during his presser, and it's like it's another like amazing football player, right?
Two actually, and then one rapper. So I'm the one that brought up the best. First time I ever met D'Amico. Hey man, who's the most famous person out of Bessemer, Alabama? You, Jameis Winston, Bo Jackson.
I was gonna say Walter Payton. So Bo Jackson, I knew it was like an all-time great running back.
And Gucci
Jameis Winston and Gucci Man.
Gucci Man. He said, "Oh, Gucci for sure." So, but I'm just letting you know, just giving your viewers and your listeners a little insight on how, on what type of person that he is. He doesn't just think about football 24/7.
No, I mean that's what I love to hear because I mean, obviously we don't know this, like we just kind of speculate, like you can only project on what you think. And so that's awesome to hear. I mean, it sounds like you said like it works for him because he's just being himself and it turns out that he's a nice guy. So then it makes it all work. So that's awesome to hear. And then the fact that you mentioned like the off the record stuff, that sounds like a really cool idea. Like, I don't know if the organization thought of doing that, but it seems like it strengthens the bond between media and the head coach, and you can actually ask personal questions and develop a relationship. And
we started that back with David Culley, and then it went with Lovie Smith, and then so it's just continuing on. We never did it with Bill O'Brien. I think it started with David Culley.
It shows. But so I assume like, their logic is like, this is like a good thing. And it sounds like not every franchise does that.
That I don't know. I would have to ask some of my colleagues. I don't know, but I will say that it's really good for us. And it's really good because D'Amico also gets to see another side of us away from just asking those type of questions. Hey man, that was good to see CJ back on the field. What are the expectations do you have for CJ? Sometimes it's like I said, it's just like I don't know.
Well, it's the same as like them strengthening their team bond, like hanging out with your teammates off the field. I know y'all aren't teammates, but like y'all are like you could consider yourselves coworkers in an extent. Like I mean, y'all work together X amount of times a week, Yeah. So sure. That's a great philosophy.
DJ BNMA loves to debate. I don't know if y'all know that about him or not. He loves to debate, but he's the only child too. So
with who? Anyone and everyone?
Me especially. He doesn't, and it's just me. He wants to. But he will debate anybody, but me especially, man. That's the one thing. DJ is, but I will say this:
he's about sports or what, or just whatever.
It don't even matter. I can call DJ right now on the phone, and I can say, "Hey, man, I think that this guy is a better artist." What are you talking about, Sarge? He's not So just banter back and forth. But I brought DJ up too, just to say that he's also. So DJ is a guy. DJ is one of those guys that keeps D'Amico on his toes. That keeps. And used to keep Bobby Slowick on his toes, to keep, Matt Burke, the player, because he's a football savant. And what I mean by that is he studies the game so much that his questions are like coverage questions, formation questions, or, the Dolphins run this on 3rd and 5 every time, or the defense does this every time. And so it was one time I'll never forget, he was talking to D'Amico, and right before D'Amico got ready to walk out the room, he's like, "Hey man, you need a job? I can hire you to come over here and help me out." Because DJ knows he definitely knows what he's talking about. So yeah, man, I just wanted to give him that type of love and show that we do have that type of camaraderie when it comes to the media.
Well, that's cool because y'all are also coworkers too, even though you're all independent in your own silos or companies. Like you're still, around each other. And shout out DJ, he's an awesome guy. I had him on the show a while ago, and so that was something I've noticed too. Again, from watching the pressers, like I've noticed that he asked these pretty advanced intellectual questions, and he's a former football player, and I was too. So I was a receiver, and he was a receiver. So I kind of align with a lot of the stuff, like the way he thinks, like tends to be analytical. So. He was able to share a lot of that insight like you touched on, and I thought that was pretty cool. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a great mix. Like, so like just from like that perspective, like we have like a good mix of media. Like everyone kind of has their own personality and thinks different ways. And so as a fan, we have so many different types of fans and the way we think. Like, I think it gets covered from all angles. Like, I don't know. It's just I feel like I go into a presser and I have questions and like they all get answered every time. So
Yeah,
just
you
a
got
good
some
deal.
really, man. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, there's some really good guys on the beat. Like I said, DJ and Jonathan, who is very insightful. Aaron is one of those guys, man. Aaron, he's going to get down to the bottom of whatever he's trying to get down to the bottom of, and that's
Yeah, I've learned that about him.
shadow of a doubt, man. He's going to get down to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Get
You got Landry and Stutes, Cody, and
just about to say Landry is one of those guys where he's gonna like it's gonna be like in a joking, trolling type of way, but he's a question that like the question that he asked today, Nick Casario, about when he's evaluating players like a wide receiver. And when you're looking at, you already got a guy here in Christian Kirk who can play the slot. But now, when you go out and you get another guy who can play the slot, but also play the outside, something to that effect. And so Landry, it'll sound like sometimes like he's joking and he's laughing, but he's serious. And it's a serious question. Cody Stutes, when you look at Cody Stutes, he's one of those guys, man. Like, I will say this. I know what my range is. I know what my field, I know what my range is when it comes to covering, different types of teams. And so since we're talking about the Texans, I know what my range is from covering the Texans. I never played like on the offensive defensive line, but I do know the offensive and defensive line, and what they're supposed to be doing. But Cody Stutes, man, when he starts breaking down, the offensive and defensive line, there's only one other person, or two. There's only two other people that I know that can break it down like Cody Stutes does and get into the minutia of everything as far as the line entails. And that's AD from the H-Town Rundown.
Yep, AD. Shout out AD.
And my co-host, John Hickman from Locked
Shout out John.
He gets down to the nitty-gritty. And so Cody Stutes is that way. Chancellor Johnson brings a lot of that business type aspect to it when he's asking his question. And then, man, my guy, look, let me tell you something about. I'll never forget the very first time I heard. Wait a minute, hold on. I cannot. Kim Davis as well. Do not forget.
Yep, Kim Davis
is one of the pioneers of this thing. So Kim Davis, and I'll never forget the first time I heard Brandon speak at a press conference. Have you ever heard Silent Night by the Temptations?
Yes.
So, when they go, "'Twas the night before Christmas," and all. So, like, when Brandon first asked the question, I was like, "Hey, damn, they let the guy from the Temptations in here? Who is that behind me?" Yeah, so, I was like, "What?"
Got that real deep voice.
Yeah, B. Scott is one of those guys. Well, man,
he's insightful too, though. Like, it's cool. Like, I feel like I know a lot of y'all just from listening to the way y'all ask questions, like y'all's personalities, and I've had the chance to like interact with y'all and interview a handful of y'all. So it's been awesome, man. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy it. But like, so I meant to ask you first off, like a background on you, if you just want to give us a background for yourself, like personal, but like really just kind of how you got to where you are now with what you're doing.
So
or been doing.
So real quickly, you want to what year? So what year did that Super Bowl where the Patriots came back on the Falcons was here in Houston, right?
Yep.
What year was that? 2015?
I need to check, but I mean that sounds roughly in the right arena.
So 2015 is when I first started. 2015 is when I first started working in the media field, and the only reason I remember that and I'll never forget it is because I my very first article looked like I was about to defend my thesis or whatever they call it, whatever when you go to get your doctorate. It felt like I was about to defend that because it just was terrible. Like I felt like I was writing a term paper. Now that I go back and look at it, I just laugh about it all the time because I really had no clue, but I knew that I could tell a story. I knew that I could write it. So I got into this business by one of my friends that I went to college with. She's the associate editor of Houston Style magazine, and she didn't have anybody to write sports for. So I was like, hey, you need somebody to write sports for you? And she was like, you just trying to go to the games? I said, let me tell you something. I think I could cover the games at home just as well as I can by just going to the games. So no, I don't really, have to go to the games. And so I'm not doing it to go to the games. I'm doing it to help out. So she got me on with that. And then I got on. After I got on and started doing that, and I was covering the Astros, the Rockets, the Texans, Prairie View, Texas Southern, and some other stuff, some high school stuff at times. But I was just getting my feet wet. And all the while, I still had my first wife. A lot of people know that knows this story already, but my first wife passed away from colon cancer in 2017. And
I did not know that. I'm sorry to hear that.
Hey man, thank you. I appreciate that. So during that time in 2015, we had just moved back to Texas because I had got out of the military and coming from Virginia, Georgia to here. So I still had a sick wife at home who loved sports though. So she was all for it. Hey, go and do it. I'm going to be here, and we FaceTime or whatever the case may be. So I got myself involved in that. And then when I got onto the radio side of it, I got fortunate enough to be a part of a sports show. But the thing was, I was happy to be a part of the sports show, but the sports show had like 8 people in the studio. So we're double dutching, trying to get on the mic to give our takes, right? So we're double dutching, I'm just like, okay. But it went from that, then it would drop down to 3 people, and I started hosting, and then it dropped down to just me. And that's when Sports Talk with Big Sarge started, and I had my own show. I mean, the very first time that I actually covered a game was like, and I'm talking about when I covered one. I was holding the camera for a guy named Michael Tula. Shout out Michael Tula. He's one of my really good friends right now. But I'll never forget that it was the same. Okay, so TCU and UT played, but on that same day, Baylor and Tech played, which was Patrick Mahomes last year. So Tech and Baylor played at AT&T Stadium. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to go, because I wanted to the stadium. And so I get there, and so I covered that. Like I said, I started out holding the camera, and I went from holding the camera as Tula did the recaps to where I'm at right now. And so I just kept working, man, kept working. And then while I was on air, not December. I take that back. Not when I was on air. September 5th, 2017, my late wife passed away. She passed away. She died and took her last breath in my arms. But one of the things that we had already talked about, she was like, don't stop. You're on the right path. Just keep working and keep pushing. And so that 15 months later, December 14, 2018, I'm on the air. And during a commercial break, I found out that my mom passed away. So I'm just,
my goodness, man.
You're right. Hey, look, you like, hey, Sarge, I didn't bring you on here to have.
No. Like this is what I want. Like I want people, like, because I don't know this, and so it helps me, like, when I interact with, like, this is just like how you said, like, how D'Amico gets to know y'all. Like, this is the same thing with me and the fellow fans. Like, we all follow and listen to your work. Like, it's good for us to know who you are. So please, by all means, I love it.
For sure. So,
I love the story. I mean, it's sad. Like, I feel terrible hearing it, but like, this is good for me to get to know you, man.
And so, so 15 months later, after my first wife passed away, my mom passed away, and then me down because when my first wife passed away, I always had my mom to lean on. Then my mom, and now I'm like, oh God, what am I going to do now? And so that's when I really, really just jumped into work and just kept pushing. And that's another reason why, I work so hard. And then, in 2020, I met my wife. I met my wife, and we, which is crazy because my wife now, it is like my late wife as far as sports is concerned. My wife is an avid sports fan. When y'all see us at places, my wife isn't just going to support me; she's going to actually watch the game. And so when we're out, like, when we were in Minnesota, she was there because she's a Packers fan. So she's like basically trying to scout. And I was like, hey, look, you don't work for the Packers, okay? So you don't have to scout. But she will watch. She will, we'll get her a ticket. She'll sit in there. She's not just there just to be there. She's there to watch the games, and she supports me in everything that I do, man. So I appreciate that. And so, but I told you about those, two tragic events in my life, because that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me pushing, for the fact that, those two things that happened, I lost my brother when he was younger. I lost my best friend who, would have been along this journey with me. So one of the reasons why I can't stop, doing what I'm doing is because I feel like, I feel like their spirits are running through me, and they're watching me, rooting me on. So, I can't sit in a press conference, or I can't give up, because if I give up on doing what I'm doing, if I stop working hard like I'm doing, then now I done let my mom down. I done let my late wife down. I done let my brother down. I let my best friend down. But then I got to come home, and my wife gonna be like, hey, what's going on? Because we ain't got no quitters up in this house. And so that's why I just keep pushing and keep going. And I will tell you this, Stressan, let me say this. One of the things that I really like about this, a lot of people don't know this. Let me sit up for a second. A lot of people don't know this. So one of the reasons I like doing what I do is because you see how I'm talking to you?
Yeah.
This is how I talk to CJ.
Yeah.
This is how I talk to Will. This is how I talk to Derek. This is how I talk to Nico. Like, Nico's my guy. This is how I talk to Tyson.
Nico talks?
Oh, man. Let me tell you something. When he's not clicheing everybody to death in those interviews, as soon as that camera go off, I get right there, and me and Nico, we just chop it up. Christian Harris. Listen, a lot of people don't know. Like, I talk to Danielle Hunter a lot. Like, a lot.
Another guy who doesn't talk. That's crazy. Like,
right.
To us,
Right. And so I'm saying that to say, like I said, that's how I am with the Rockets, with Jalen Green and Alpy and Jabari Smith Jr. But I'm saying that, and I'm not saying that to flex. I'm saying that one of the reasons why I feel like I'm successful in this business is because when I'm talking to these players, like I'm talking to you, they know ain't no ulterior motive. Sarge ain't coming over here to get no hot take. Sarge ain't coming over here to try to go viral. Sarge ain't coming over here asking me for no tickets. He not asking me for no autographed jerseys. He ain't asking me for no money. He not asking me for nothing. He's genuinely coming over here to talk to me. He's genuinely coming over. And then when it's time to do the work, it's time to do the work. But you build the relationships with those type of players. You build a relationship with the players. And then when it's time for them to talk to you, then you can get the answers. Then you can get trust. You build the trust, and you build the camaraderie. And now they know, okay, well, so now you and I talking about the questions that I'm asking you is just like you and I talk, and I mean the manner and the tone in which we talk is just like how we talk when we're away from when we're not in front of the cameras.
Yeah.
You didn't see one. How many? Let me ask you this: how many interviews did you see with Derek Barnett this year?
I don't think there was any. I mean, maybe a couple in the locker room.
Because Derek Barnett had 2 defensive touchdowns this year, right?
Yeah.
After the Cowboys game, remember he had that one in the Cowboys game?
Uh-huh.
By the time we got in the locker room, Derek Barnett was gone, out the door.
He's just antisocial or what?
So here's the thing, right? Derek Barnett, don't hardly talk to nobody. Off the strength of me just talking to Derek, and then also the other players know, now Sarge a good guy. Like right here, I have a full interview from Derek Barnett that I've never ever put out, that I'm probably going to put out like during the summer, but I'm the only one that pretty much, and I'm talking about with us, they may have talked to him on the radio.
Yeah.
I don't know, but just based off of the camaraderie that I have with him, and he sees the way that I talk to other people, he was like, all right, I'll talk to him.
So he's very protective. Like he must have been burned before or something, or it's just maybe it's just the way his personality is. He's real protective, I guess.
That I don't know. Danico Autry is like that. That's why he don't talk a lot and talk to people. But I talk to Danico Autry a lot. And I'm saying all this to say that, you know, I don't know who's out there watching right now who wants to, who's aspiring to be.
We got 500 people watching us, so we got some eyes
in sports media. But the one thing that try to build the camaraderie with the player. Try to, you know, because the players also know, hey, the players know you got a job to do. See, when I talk to CJ knows real quickly. I know, damn, he's like, Sarge, every question is supposed to be real quickly. I don't know if you've seen after who did the Texans play before they played the Cowboys? Was it the Lions?
Yes.
So
it was a bounce back game. I'm 90% sure that was the case.
So I don't know if you remember this or not, but during the Lions game, I said, hey, CJ's going to have to take some of the blame for this game as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that CJ's mom like went off on me?
Yeah, I did.
Right? So CJ, now I'm saying to myself, but wait a minute, Miss Kim. Like
Kim, shout out Kim.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, Miss Kim, you and I supposed to be, you know, I thought that we had a good healthy working relationship, right? And she's just like, Sarge, I can't believe that you do this, that, and the other, right? So I'm like, cool, right? So I don't respond. I'm not going to respond online because the one thing that will definitely make you look terrible is going back and forth with a player's parent.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
especially with the franchise quarterback's mom. Oh no, you don't do that. But plus, I have a good relationship with her. To be able to pull to be able to see her when she's on the side to have the conversation with her. So anyway, I didn't get a chance to talk with her, but after the Dallas Cowboys game, I told CJ, hey, CJ, your mom is mad at me. He said, Sarge, for what? And he said, because I didn't really see. He said, I heard something about it, but I didn't really see it because I wasn't on social media like that. So I told him about it. And CJ's response was, hey, man, we'll talk to her after the game. He said, but let me tell you something. Sarge, you got a job to do. And what you said was not wrong. He said, my mom was being a mom. So she's protecting CJ first. CJ the child, not CJ the franchise quarterback. She's thinking
he is so mature, bro. That is insane.
Yeah.
Right? What?
He said,
like to realize that he was in the wrong and to realize that she's being a mom, like that's crazy, dude.
He's like, Sarge, he said, you know how my mama is. I was like, yes, CJ, I do know. He said, so yeah, man, I understand. So I left to go over to the other side of the locker room to talk to, that's when I talked to Derek Stingley and Jalen Petrie. And so in the midst of me, after I finished talking to them, I think I'm waiting on Danico Autry. And I hear, Sarge, come here. So I turn and I look and CJ's going like this, right?
That's
so
crazy.
I go back over to CJ's locker and CJ said, no, Sarge, I just want to make sure, I just want you to know, hey man, I know that I'm not upset. We're going to talk to my mom. But bro, you got a job to do and you were just doing your job. And he was like, hey, I didn't do my job against in that game. He said, if what you're telling me that you tweeted is what you said, then you're right. The responsibility falls on me as well. And I really appreciated that. But I tell that story to say that is due to the fact of the relationship that I've built with CJ, talking to him, seeing him, you know,
he knows what you said wasn't just out of pocket and like ill will. Like it was just a natural, normal observation. Like, yeah, there's no bias or anything involved, right?
And that's all I'm saying is that when they know that you're doing your job, they don't have a problem with that. They may not like it because you're bringing to light something that they didn't do right, but by the same
but as long as you're fair and not excessive, right? I mean, there's a certain line to cross or not cross, I guess.
Bro, let me tell you something. Of course they say that I'm a Laramie Tunsil apologist. I've been labeled, hey man, you must be Laramie Tunsil's uncle. You always, taking up for him or this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I'm not taking up for him. I just know the person that I talk to. Because I'm gonna be honest with you. When Laramie was having all those pre-snap starts and this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what's up, Laramie? Hey, what's good, Sarge? What's going on? I was like, bro, what is going on with these pre-snap penalties? And he said, damn, Sarge, I know, right? Bro, I was like, what is going on? And he was like, man, he said, so, and this is why I tell people they don't know. This is why I don't debate. Stressan, this is why I don't debate or go back and forth with a lot of people, because I can debate and go back and forth from a place of privilege, and that's not fair to the person that I'm going with, because I have a whole nother lane and aspect. That I can go to that you can't. So
it's not public common knowledge.
So when I'm talking to Laramie about his false starts and his pre-snap and him not lining up in the right place and him acknowledging, no, sorry, I got to do better. That's on me, blase this, blase that. And then I come out and I say that, well, because I didn't see it. It wasn't on here. It wasn't on there. This, that, and other.
Yeah.
Like, okay, but I'm trying to tell you that this is what's going on. But that's because of the relationship. So, to make a long story even longer, just if you're trying to get into this business, report the facts. That's first and foremost. Report the facts. Report what you're seeing, what you're watching, but develop a relationship if you can. If you can develop a relationship, then develop a relationship. Not a relationship where when a player sees you coming, they just be like, damn, I don't want to talk to him. You'd be like
a hard ass, like, oh man, here's the hardo, yeah.
And so, and I seen Aziz the other day at the Rockets game. His first Rockets game, as a matter of fact.
Aziz is an awesome guy, bro. He came to my watch party, dude. Or not mine, but a watch party that me and other guys hosted. But sorry.
Great guy. Because I, talked to him so much. First thing I do is like, hey, what's going on, Sarge? Blah, 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 blah. So that's all, I know you want to get down to some football talk.
No, you're good. I've been holding you over. Are you good on time? Like I could talk, just off the cuff personal. This is dope. Like this is what I really meant for this. Like obviously there's sports to talk to, but but what you've been saying too, it's similar to how y'all get closer to D'Amico. Like it all goes hand in hand. And I guess, but like what you're saying too, though, is I'm sure a lot of people, I guess you probably experienced this from like interaction with fans, like you alluded to, but a lot of people probably wonder, like they probably think that if you're close to the players, then you automatically can't be fair when judging them, but that's not the case. It's actually even more so the case. Like you're saying is no, like the fact that I'm close with them, they know that if I do critique them, it's coming from a good, like, it's not like a place of hate. So like, is that like true? Like, so like you can be friends and still critique them.
Well, and I don't, so here's the thing. I don't consider us friends.
Not friends, but like have a relationship, I guess is what I should say.
But the relationship that we have how can I put this? There's a business aspect to it, and then there's just a non-business aspect to it. So because it's not when, it's not if I critique them, it's when. Because when they weren't playing good, I went on and I said, hey man, they're not playing good. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. The line isn't blocking, the line isn't doing this, they're getting CJ killed. Some of the route concepts is crazy, blase this, blase that. And and like I said, I was pointing out what was going on, but I was fair about it too. I didn't have to harp on it. And that's another thing. Like if you're gonna talk about it, this, that, and other, if you keep driving that thing into the ground, and now it sounds like, as long as you're reporting the facts and it doesn't become malicious, because it gets malicious when you start interjecting your own opinion into it. And now
it's personal.
Yep, it goes from being your job to now it's personal. And now when it becomes personal, now they're saying to themselves, okay,
it's me and you. Yeah, it's not you representing the fans or doing your job. Yeah.
Right. And so even when I have to, critique them and tell, and talk about, this, that, and other, they know what I'm saying. Hey, Sarge ain't wrong. He not wrong. He's telling exactly what happened. Now, after
And
I
just be
tell
respectful too. Like some people say it and say wild stuff like why? It's unnecessary, you know?
then I interject. So after I say what happens, then I may interject my opinion, and then I'll make sure that I say it's my opinion. So yeah, that like I said, that's just man, that's how one of the ways that I've been able to navigate in this because I've just I know how to chop it up. I tell people that all the time.
Yeah.
I know how to chop it up. I mean, I'll walk in. I remember I walked in one day and I was just like, "Hey man, who you gonna vote for the Pro Bowl?" Right? And I forgot. And I just started asking around. And so, like I said, just different types of things like that, man.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, I'm kind of like that too. Like I used to not be as social, but like I realized like it's better just to be like, break the ice and like rather than sit there and have this weird tension, whatever. You might as well just strike a convo. So it sounds like that's you're a social guy, but and then
Yeah.
I guess I will say like just to wrap up on this, that being said, like you do your job, be friendly. There still may be some athletes I would assume that no matter what are going to be offended by comments, whether it comes from a place of respect or not. And you just kind of have to like learn who those people are and maybe like try to avoid that. Or like, is that an issue still?
Oh
Like,
no. That yes, that happens. That
yeah,
happens, and it happens more often than one would think, because they are. I don't want to say that. Okay, so a lot of these athletes, right? And I'm talking about on the professional level when it comes to baseball, football, basketball. They're perfectionists, so they know that they're going to make mistakes. They know that the game they're going to probably make some mistakes. If not in this game, it'll be in the next game. They know that they're not going to go mistake free throughout the season. So they know that if they make a mistake and everybody sees it or whatever the case may be, they know they're going to get asked the question about the mistake, right? But it's
mhm.
all about how you ask the question and how you word the question, and then because now you got to also look at it like this. I don't. Sometimes you got to look at these players, and when you're talking to them, they're human beings as well.
Yep.
So I don't want to be salacious or malicious towards them right off the. I don't want to be salacious or malicious towards them because because they're going to reciprocate the energy that you give. The energy that you give to them,
Yeah.
they're going to reciprocate it. May not all now, not a lot, not all of them, but some of them will, and some of them won't do it on camera. But as soon as that camera goes off, now it's I don't want to talk to that person no more. I don't want to do this, that, and other. Or they'll answer the question. Listen, I've been in plenty of DeAndre Hopkins. I can't remember the young man's name who used to be here. He moved to Austin and then he just stopped doing it. I can't remember his name right now. But he called DeAndre Hopkins DeAndre Dropkins, right? And now this is the season where DeAndre may have had 3 drops in the season. It was at a time when DeAndre was averaging less than 5 drops per season. So he wasn't dropping the ball at all. God, I can't remember that guy's name. Anyway,
Well,
so
that's like for being a fan and then like being a professional, you're kind of like you can't have it both ways, right?
DeAndre had heard it. You're right. And DeAndre had heard it. So when we're in the scrum, right, the guy's right here talking. Like he's literally right here on the side of DeAndre. And DeAndre never looks at him. He's asked the question. DeAndre answers the question like
I
this.
remember that video.
He turns his head like this and he answers the question. And then, some other questions get asked. And then the dude asked the question again. And DeAndre gave him like a 2-word answer and just stood there waiting on the next question. Because, like I said, these guys, they hear when you're being, they know when you're trying to get a hot take off or when you're trying to, spew vitriol towards them. And you got
Yeah.
to remember, like I said, they're human too. And then, their families and friends and teammates, and they hear it too. So, if a player has a bad game, real quickly, I'll give you another example. After Kenyon Green had a bad game against, I forgot who it was. I don't even remember who. It was the game. You remember the game where he got pulled and then Jared Patterson got in and then knocked himself out like on the first or second play. Like, remember when Joe Mixon
Yep.
scored the rushing touchdown and then Jared Patterson knocked himself out?
Yep.
Well, in that game, Kenyon had got pulled for a performance. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't injured. He got pulled because he wasn't playing well. after the game, I went to Kenyon and I was like, "Hey, you got time to talk?" He's like, "Yeah, I got time to talk." I said, "All right, I'm gonna ask you." I said, "Cool." So I asked him the question, "Hey, man, how do you feel about the way that you played today?" And when Jared Patterson, something to that effect, and he was just like, "Hey, man, I played bad. They pulled me for performance. I should have been pulled for performance." And I was like, "What are you gonna do to make sure that doesn't happen again if you get an opportunity and a chance?" And then he answered the question, but he's one of those guys where I didn't just go to him and be like, "Hey, man, the Texans got a bad offensive line, and they say you the worst offensive lineman, bro. Like you just out there and you do not look good. You out there, blase this, blase that." And at that point, he probably like, "No, I'm not gonna do it." But he knew that he had a bad game. He knew that he got pulled for performance and then got put back in after Patterson got hurt. And so I just asked him the question. So that's all it is. Hey, just ask them the question. They know what's going on.
Yeah, and that was a great interview too. Like I remember watching that myself specifically, and a lot of fans. But like I already had respect for him. Like obviously, like I know he's trying. He was struggling, but like that doesn't mean I don't like him as a person. But like I was happy to see him do that because I know he was kind of getting dogpiled and justifiably so for his play. But like a lot of fans saw that, and like okay, like he owned up to it and like he was positive. Like so that was encouraging for me to see. And thank you for So it ended up being good. Like he could have shut it down, but like the fact that gave him an opportunity to kind of improve, his image in my eyes, and I liked
He
that. That was cool.
Stressing he always took responsibility. But hey, can we talk some football right quick?
Yeah. So I don't want to keep you much longer. So
No.
we'll get
So
to the
I'm here.
scores.
Look, I'm
Okay.
here for however long you need me to be. I'm serious. I don't
Okay.
like.
Go.
I'm still going to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym. No matter. I went to bed last night at 1 o'clock in the morning watching that Grizzlies Warriors game. So, but the
Didn't
reason
even
why,
get a shot off, bro. That was crazy. Damn.
right? So, but the reason why I can we talk football real quick, right? So, there's this perception, right? And I get it about Kenyon Green, and he's no longer here. Now he's with one of the best offensive.
Stoutland, you,
Yeah, he was with
Jeff Stoutland.
the best, and I think so. I think they're moving Kenyon to right guard to play next to Lane. Lane Johnson plays right tackle for them.
I believe so.
Well, I forgot who played. They got a very good right tackle, and so was it last year? He's playing the spot. Mekhi Becton, after he left the Jets, came and played for the Eagles. Wasn't he the right guard last year?
I'll double check, but so he's basically replacing. They hope that he replaces Mekhi Becton.
Right, and so, but when it comes to Kenyon Green, right, this is what I can't understand. People dog Kenyon Green, and I get it. I understand that. I understand. But I tell people all the time, hey, let's not look at the selfie. Let's look at the panoramic view. These cell phones has gotten us looking to just a selfie only. And I'm like, hey, your phone has a panoramic view too. Just go and look. That's what pano means. Panoramic. That means everything, right? When you look at a player like Kenyon Green, when he was coming out of college, right? He was a two-time consensus All-American. But he was only good at run blocking. Like he was really good at run blocking and not that good at pass blocking. So when he was there, they had Isaiah Spiller, who ended up being drafted by the Chargers. I think he had over 1,000 yards rushing. And then was he there when A-Chain was there? I don't remember. But it was two backs that went over 1,000 yards running behind Kenyon, who was playing like left tackle and left guard. But so you remember he got here his rookie year. He's a rookie, but he was going up against a gauntlet of defensive tackles that was just destroying. When I tell you destroying him. One of his family members said, hey, look, if Kenyon would have got in and was successful against some of those guys that he went up against in his rookie year, I would have said I have no respect for the NFL, and I probably would have stopped watching. Because Kenyon got abused, and he's like, that's what he should have gotten abused going up against those grown men. I think two of those guys made the Pro Bowl. One of them made all pro. And I think like four of them got contract extensions. So that, and then he gets hurt, right?
Yep.
He gets hurt, and he's out for an entire season.
Mm-hmm.
Then he comes back. Well, he comes back last season, right? Well, I think he may have got hurt. Did he get hurt his rookie year? But then, because this would have been
hurt, and then he's out of shape one year, right?
That's when
because he was hurt.
Because Stingley is going into his fourth year, right?
Yeah, so he has 1 year left on his contract. So
yeah, but Stingley's going into his fourth year. So yeah, Kenyon played, Then he was injured, and then he played again when he came back. But when I ask people this question, right, and they talk about his development and his growth, and I say, you're right. Don't get me wrong. He also knows this as well, but he played in a when Kenyon after his rookie year, Kenyon was playing in one offensive system. By the time Kenyon came back, it was a totally different offensive system. Right.
And to your point, you talked about him being a great run blocker. He was a great run blocker in gap scheme, and now he's in a zone scheme. So now it's not only is he, so that's another thing to point out too. We had to try to. He was trying to zone block with him.
Right, and so you bring him back, and now he's in a whole totally different offensive system. He's basically playing in his second year because he's missed an entire year for injury. But here's the thing. Nobody ever taught Kenyon how to pass block in the NFL. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people don't take that into consideration. If you want to run, you run behind Kenyon. You want to pass, you pass behind Laramie. You don't run behind Laramie. Like if you could have confused them together, you would have had a great offensive lineman. But Laramie was good.
Or just take average at both instead of having these two extremes,
Right. And so I tell people all the time, I was like, okay, so I get what you're saying about Kenyon, but who taught him nobody taught him how to pass block in the NFL. Not only did anybody not teach him how to pass block, I don't understand how he became just the whipping post when he went out. The Texans offensive line did not improve. Mm-hmm. Like when they moved Titus over, yes, it got better, but they were still having a lot of issues. So that's what I'm like. I just don't understand how, when it comes to certain things, people pick and choose and they don't look at the entire picture of everything. Because I mean, the offensive line coach that he had at first, when he came back, he was gone, right? So the offensive line coach, what's the offensive line coach that's in Baltimore who took over for the coach who passed away?
I would not be able to answer that one.
But you remember, so because
he I
know
he's renowned. I mean, they have a good O-line every year.
And he was like an assistant there. But then I think that their offensive line coach passed away. They moved him up and he's been there, right? So you had him. Then you come in, when you come back, you have Chris Strausser, who is no longer here. So you got to look at some of that. So some of the issues that he had while he was here was nobody ever really, like, I really would have loved to have seen him under Cole Popovich. I really want to see what he's going to do now with the Eagles. But that's just one of the things that I'm just like, man, I could never understand that. And, from a different perspective, from outside looking in, and especially because, look, let me give you your flowers real quick, because you're one of those guys, bro. You can break down some film. You're very analytical. You can see like you're like, look, like you the white version of DJ. So
I'll take that.
But when you look at, like, why do you think that Kenyon wasn't able to strive here?
I mean, you brought up some good points, like him not being, developed to pass block. But I mean, I think everything you laid out too, like he was a rookie, then he got hurt, and then basically his first year back was like his, sophomore year, and it was his first year healthy. But, now that we look back in the moment, it's like, yes, okay, he's playing bad, like he's the problem. But now that we've like peeled the layers back of the onion, we see that, okay, Slowick was bad. Okay, the O-line coach was bad. Okay, the protections were bad. We were trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, which is I was saying we were doing the whole time. And it was funny to hear Kaylee say, I'm not going to do that in his presser, because that's exactly what we did. And it wasn't really Bobby's fault, I don't think. We brought him in, young guy who only knows one scheme, and we brought him into a team with the personnel for an O-line that is not fit to run his scheme. He runs the zone scheme, which is more of your agile, quicker lineman, sideline to sideline. It's more cerebral. You kind of get an area and then make a decision. It's super technical, like hand placement, foot placement. Whereas gap scheme, like you're more traditional, it's like, hey, just line up and block the guy in front of you. It's like man-to-man football. And we had bigger Mauler type of O-linemen. And, so with Kenyon, that especially with him, now you're asking him to do all this stuff. And you basically laid it all out. To your point too, he's going from this offense to that offense, like back and forth, on top of being young, on top of being injured. there's a lot of that, and like I'm I'm happy for him because I like going into this year, I'm an optimistic fan. I was like, the one, preaching, hey, patience with Kenyon Green. Like, I'm ready for a bounce back year. But he could not have gone to a better place, like we've talked about with Jeff Statler and the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, if he can't fix him, then no one can, but I'm confident he will. So I'm happy that he will get that because it seemed like it beat him up. Like, how could it not? So, I mean, that's the main thing. And then, yeah, I'm sure they'll run. And so that's what with Kaylee and D'Amico, I've loved to hear about this new hire is, it seemed like D'Amico, he fired Bobby Slowick for reasons, which was being adaptable, to your own personnel instead of, running your offense and then making guys try to fit into your mold. It's the other way around. It's like, hey, we have this, we'll build it around you. And so he's vocalized that and said that in that presser, like, I wanted someone who's adaptable. And then you hear Kaylee's like, we're going to be adaptable. So like they're saying all the right things. That's a different little tangent, but.
No, I get what you're saying. Because, the one thing that I always said, and especially even when Deshaun Watson was here, I said, I can't understand why Bill O'Brien is stuck in his own head, in his own mind, and say, this is the offense I'm going to run. No.
Ego.
You build the offense around Deshaun. Look, when the Ravens drafted Lamar Jackson, they built the offense around him. When Kansas City drafted Patrick Mahomes, they built the offense around him. Josh Allen has a offense built around him. Joe Burrow has an offense built. Like, these players have offenses built around them. And so when I think that, and I don't want to be the one that just keeps pushing Bobby back down every time he stands up. And so I give Bobby some leeway because he's a first-time offensive coordinator. So if you're the first time, you don't know what you're doing. There's a lot of guys in this league that don't get it right the first time, and then they go, and once they get another opportunity, they do it right. Bill Belichick is a prime example. So they don't. I will say with Bobby being new and with Bobby being new and with CJ being new, I felt like it could have been they could have trusted. You had a quarterback who is very smart and who never really makes the same mistake twice. And instead of building that offense around him, I didn't like the fact that Bobby kept using a lot of the San Francisco style offense with him. And I get it because that's where, that's
all he knows too, though,
Yes. Right. And so the good thing about Nick Caley is going to be that he's watched Sean McVay and he knows what Sean McVay did with Matt Stafford and built around him. And so I think that that's what's going to happen here. So I didn't like the fact that, with Bobby, he didn't do a good job of helping CJ, especially like just get to that next level of where he should have been in his second year. Everybody say sophomore slump, but you remember, I think it was Edelman and Puka Nacua that just got through talking about the offensive line, the weapons.
Everything we've been saying, bro.
Everything that we've been saying. So, but with that being said, right, I preface that because I got a question that I need to ask you, right? It's one of the questions that John and we go back and forth on almost like every other show we go back and forth on. The Texans stay at 25, offensive lineman or wide receiver 2?
So I mean, I'm honestly like, I've been like cool with like anything, but like I've kind of like as the closer we've gotten, like I've started to lean towards O-line, and I've started to lean towards a guard, an interior O-line, and I've started to lean. I'm convinced it's Tyler Booker if we stay at 25. You listen to them talk like D'Amico, like he says, D'Amico and Nick and their, pressers around the combine and the coaches retreat or whatever it was, like first round guys, like they expect to be impact players right away. So to me, I don't know if you get one of these potential projects or risks, I know Kelvin Banks is a great talent, but like if you're going to get a guy that's a tackle and you listen to Caserio talk today about guys changing positions, he seemed to not be so set on it. So why would you use your first-round pick to protect your quarterback and go from a tackle to a guard when you got Tyler Booker, who is a known, proven guard in the SEC? So to me, it's a guard and it's Tyler Booker. But I'm like greedy too. Like I'm like, hey, you know what? Why not get a receiver? And why not trade up and get both? But I would, if I had to pick, I would say O lineman and get a guard. Are you saying that too?
Can you clip this and send it to John, please? Can you send it to John?
To hell with all those like 3rd, 4th, 7th round picks. Like trade up and cash out, bro. Like we don't need a lot. We just need 2 or 3 good pieces and we're good.
You got 2 coaches on your squad right now in Jerry Shaplinsky and Nick Caley who watch the Rams say F them picks. Hey man, F them picks. Nobody care about that. No, hey, we trying to win right now. They said F them picks. And then they won a Super Bowl. So I'm like, I don't know.
Did you hear Caserio today? He said it's going to be hard to make this team. So we're going to draft 8 guys and only 3 are going to make the team. Like, what are we doing?
Right. That's what I say. So that's what I'm like.
We're in win now, bro.
Exactly. So I've been one of the ones, and I got killed for it in the YouTube comments. But I was like, hey man, why not pull a 2023? They win. They got the quarterback and they got their defensive end. Hey,
so we're capable of doing it, right? Like they've shown that they're willing to do it.
Right. So go get your offensive lineman and go get your wide receiver too, and keep it moving. Hey, if you got to give up these picks or whatever the case may be, because I don't want the Texans to get into I don't want the Texans to operate like they're still in rebuild mode. You're in win now mode.
We're all in, bro.
You can't be in rebuild mode at all right now because, and I said this, probably said this about a month or 2 ago. The problem is DeMeco is a victim of his own success. If they wouldn't have won the AFC South, won a playoff game, and went to the divisional round the first year, and then mimicked that and duplicated that in the second year, if they would have had some type of adversity in those first 2 years, then you could say, all right, man, this is just year 3 for DeMeco. They're still learning. They're still building on this, that, and other. But now you've gotten to that point to whereas, hey, man, these fans and this organization, they want at least an AFC South.
He's aware. He said that vocally.
Right. And so they're like just right there on the cusp. And so year 3, he's like, hey, like DeMeco, y'all on the clock. And so if you're on the clock like that, then you need to tell Nick, look, man,
sense of urgency.
I understand. And look, on the defensive side of the ball, we're going to be good. We're going to be good on the defense side of the ball. Get whatever CJ and Nick Caley need in order to be successful. And so, because I'm under the impression of, hey, if you can get a wide receiver, or because I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm advocating for wide receiver because I honestly and truly believe that the Houston Texans have enough on their offensive line right now, and especially with Cole Popovich being promoted, because Cole Popovich is very good too. The players love him as well. But if you have a Cole Popovich, did I tell you the story about what went on last year between the Cole Popovich Chris Strausser debacle?
No, so I did get some insight from Jonathan Alexander when I had him on, and he kind of pointed out that, and this is like the whole one voice thing I've kind of caught on to since then, but he talked about how like Popovich was the run game guy, and the other who was the other assistant coach?
I don't know.
But he said there was 2 assistant O-line coaches, and one was Popovich was run guy, and one was pass guy, and then it sounded like Shaplinsky didn't do anything. But no, I have not heard. Please enlighten us on this story.
Okay, hold on. Was it Mike Snyder?
I think he's still on the roster. I want to say Laser, but it's
Zach Yenser. I don't know.
Yenser, yeah, Yenser.
So here's the thing, right? So because I talked with a couple of players about this, right? When DeMeco keeps talking about this one voice, right? When he's talking about this one voice, it's because there was last season it was the players, then it was Cole Popovich, and then it was Chris Strausser. And I went from the bottom, I went from 3 to 1. But if you want me to go 1 to 3, I'll say Chris Strausser, Cole Popovich, and then the offensive lineman. And people kept saying, this is another reason that I laugh when people's like, Laramie isn't a leader. He's supposed to be a captain. He's not a leader, this, that, and other. It's not Laramie's job to make the other offensive linemen better. It's Laramie's job to do his job. And if they're not doing it, then of course you got to help them. But that's why they have coaches. That's why they have position coaches. Laramie's not a position coach. He plays a position. And so the problem started to happen in week 2. And even though the Houston Texans beat the Chicago Bears, what the Bears did was lay the blueprint out on, hey, this line can't pick up stunts and they can't pick up delayed blitzes. And if you watch going on, every defense that they played against kept doing the exact same thing, right? Kept doing the exact same thing. They're never right. And so
still couldn't stop it.
Right. They're doing the exact same thing. And you're like, okay, so how come they can't get this together? It's because the miscommunication, there was a lot of miscommunication along the line. Sometimes you had the one side of the line doing one thing, and the other side of the line doing another thing. You're like, hey, y'all got to get on the same page.
You couldn't have blocked anybody if you're not on the, I mean, it didn't matter who was in front of you.
So they couldn't get on the same page because Chris Strausser wanted to do it one way. And he's like, my way is going to be the way this, that, and other.
That's terrible, man.
Cole Popovich is saying, hey, I know how to stop this. I know how to stop this delayed blitz. I know how to stop.
But he's the underling, and he can't really like break through authority, you know.
So now, so you get it, right? So now you got those two doing that, and now you got the players like, well, damn, what Cole is saying makes sense, but Coach Strausser controls my playing time. So, Cole, what you're saying is amazing. And this is what I know that I should be doing, or I know it should do. But if Strausser says do it this way, then we're going to do it. I got to do it this way because I want to be on the field. If I don't do it this way, I'm not going to be on the field. That's why DeMeco was like, hey, look, one voice. That's it. One voice. And that's why Strausser had to go. And Cole Popovich was, because I'm going to be honest with you, for as much disdain.
And then Slovik's not even in the picture on that. He's delegating all that to them. Like he's not even involved.
Exactly. Right. Right. Because you think about it. You hire these people for a reason. And you don't want to
do their job.
And the one thing, so for as much disdain as people had for Bobby Slowick and that offense, and they called for Bobby to be fired, right? That's just about as much disdain as people had for Strausser. But the one reason why Slowick didn't go anywhere throughout the season, and one reason Strausser didn't go, because DeMeco is not going to make those type of changes and disrupt everything. And now they become.
He's also gave himself his own rope to hang himself with too. If you look at it that way, like, hey, I'm letting you try to figure out. If you don't, then you're out.
Right. So with that being said, right. So I asked you wide receiver, offensive lineman, because when I'm looking right now, when I'm looking at what, and I said I would go wide receiver because I would be like, hey, Kaylee, what you got for me? If I'm CJ, I'm like, hey, we're going to give me a wide receiver too. And if you're going to get the ball out of my hands quicker, then I probably won't get hit like that. But if you go back and you look at the games from last year, the route concepts that was being called, you're saying to yourself, one, why are they taking so long to develop? And two, hey, why sometimes I got two people in the same area? When Tank Dell got hurt in Week 16 against Kansas City, why were there two players in the same area?
That was on that rookie receiver that was in there. I think it was Jared Wayne. He ran his route. He was supposed to clear out this way, and he kind of. But they were still in the same spot, right? I think both happened. I think there was miscues. And people don't talk about that enough too. Like the injuries in the receiver room happened. And that's what Puka Nacua and Julian Edelman pointed out. Is like you are now running reps with guys who don't know their assignments and you don't have chemistry with. So that's just another layer to it. But yes, I agree. A lot of the concepts continue. Yeah.
You look at. Let me tell you. So a lot of people will look at John Mechie last season and be like, man, Mechie, we don't need Mechie. We don't want Mechie on the team, this, that, and other.
We didn't have hot routes. Like, we didn't allow him to, like...
Bro, I'm not...
Or pass protection.
I was talking to one of the players in the locker room to the side, and I was like, bro, I know Mechie is by far one of the best wide receivers coming out of college as far as routes are concerned. Like Tank can run routes, Mechie can run routes. Like I don't think that
Yeah.
there is any route that Mechie cannot run, right? And so I'll never forget. I'm watching a game, right? I forgot who it was against, but Mechie came out, right? Mechie came off the line. He clears the linebackers, right? He clears the linebackers, and the safety is up top. So if he turns this way
Bend it.
and gets into the space, he's wide open, and CJ can see him wide open, right? Wide open. But he keeps running, and he runs right into the safety, right?
Run into coverage.
He runs right into the safety, and I forgot what Nico was doing or whatever the case may be, but he runs right into the safety. So that following week, I was talking to a player on the offense side of the ball, and I said, "Hey man, there's this play where Mechie takes off and he clears the linebackers, and the player tells me, and then he has all that room before he gets to the safety, right?" I was like, yeah. So, like, if you're watching, if he bends that route, he's wide open in the middle of the field, and you can just get him to pass. He's like, yeah.
So he didn't have the freedom to do it, is what they're saying.
And then he said,
and he's doing what he's told to do. So Mechie looks like he's the one wrong, but he's just doing what he's told, and it's the scheme or the And so like that is crazy because when I played receiver, and I played in the old school archaic offense, and I played in the more West Coast spread out Mike Leach offense. And in that one, you are empowered, just like you said. If it's a 2 high safety and you have an inside vertical, you bend it over the middle. Or if it's a 1 high safety, then you stay up the hash. And it's like you make that read, and the quarterback makes the read, and it's like you both know by looking at the defense, like. That's like 101, bro. That's crazy.
Right, bro. And so there's a lot of times, and that was the exact same way with Xavier Hutchinson sometimes. So like you got to give these guys the freedom to be able to do what they can do, and especially when you're playing with a guy like CJ. But but
you're making a good point. What you're trying to say is like, okay, some of these players struggle, but we need to try and think about, okay, how much of this was the player and how much was the coaching or the scheme? Like basically, and that's been the argument that's been understood from the public, from the O-line. Like we all understood that was bad, but this can also be said for receivers too. So like, I like that is that what you're trying to get to essentially, or you're
for sure
part of what you're saying?
So that's what I'll say. And don't get me wrong now. Don't get me wrong. There was some times where Mechie played bad. What was that? The first play there was what game was that? The first play of the game where was it that
humbled it?
CJ,
or that was the pick. That was a miscommunication.
And
that could have been coaching too, though. Like we didn't know if he's supposed to bend it or not, or like
So Mechie says, so when I asked Mechie about the play, Mechie said, first of all, it's on me. If I get the ball or whatever the case may be, I'm supposed to catch it. I'm supposed to secure it or whatever the case may be. He said, but he said, I was like the third option, maybe the third or fourth option in that play. He said, so when I came off the line, and when I came off the line and I did the route, he said, when I turned and I seen the ball, I didn't expect the ball to actually be coming to me because the play was supposed to be 3 other options before it got to me. He said, so the ball got on me quickly. And he said, it's still my responsibility. I still take accountability for it. He said, but hell, I didn't even know I was supposed to even get the ball.
Is this the interception you're talking about? It was like the slant where like CJ threw it one place and he was somewhere else. Like
that's what it was. I forgot which game.
Well, that might be a different one, but so to me, that was like what I noticed. Like I feel like there was no hot routes, bro. So same thing in like the more advanced offense. Like if you're lined up and you see a guy lined up blitzing, whatever your route is, you just turn around and like boom, that's how you beat the blitz. But like we would keep the 20-yard dig on. Like no, like your guy's blitzing, you turn around, you're hot, you're wide open, and that just negates the blitzer. And I feel like that's what Stroud was doing, but it sounds like Mechie wasn't given the option to be hot. I don't know.
Right, and don't get me wrong. I'm not here to say, I'm not here to say that John Mechie, didn't mess up. He'll be the first to admit that there were some plays that he left out on the field this past season. But I'm telling you, man, at one point that offensive side of the ball was so chaotic that everybody wasn't on the same page, and with everybody not being on the same page, that's what. And I'll put it like this: I knew that something wasn't going to be right. I'm gonna tell you two things before the season and during the season. Well, before the season, I think early on in the season. So when we were in Ohio, right? When we were in Ohio, and that was the break coming out of the Hall of Fame game and before they played the Pittsburgh Steelers on that Friday. Remember, they went to Nick's high school, old high school, and they practiced there.
Mm-hmm.
So one day, excuse my language, one day, that defense was eating CJ alive.
That was all camp, bro.
This day, that defense was eating. When I tell you they was eating CJ up, they were eating him alive. The defensive line was getting to him quicker than he thought that they were going to get to. That's and I tell this story all the time. That's the practice where CJ drops back. Nico and Stingley are locked up. CJ drops back. Bam, 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 bam. Nico throws the ball to Nico. Mind you, Derek Stingley is running side by side with Nico, right? So Derek ain't even looked at the ball yet. So Derek all of a sudden just goes, intercepts the ball, right? He intercepts the ball, throws it back to the offense and say, hey, try again.
Yeah, I remember that.
That day, Derek Stingley had like 2 interceptions that day. And so afterwards, right, we're talking to Bobby. And I'm asking Bobby about the offense. And I'm asking him, hey, man, it looks like CJ's holding the ball longer than he should be holding it, right? Looks like CJ, because it did. And I don't know, did you get a chance to come out to any of the camps?
I went to a couple of the public ones, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Did you notice that as well?
Yeah.
CJ was holding the ball. And I'm saying to myself, why does he keep holding the ball like this? So I asked Bobby. And Bobby said, it's because we're trying to get him to go through all his reads. We don't want him to just go through the first read, or we don't want him to get to the second read. We need him to get to the third and fourth read. And I'm just looking at Bobby, and I'm saying, that's probably about the dumbest answer I've ever heard in my life. It's not the dumbest.
You want him to make the right decision, do that like in a drill, not like in live, right?
Because in a game, he's going to throw to Tank said, hey, CJ can make any wide receiver a number 1 wide receiver. So in the game, he's going to throw to who's ever open. He ain't going to sit there, Tank, you're open. Nope. Nico, that's a good route you're running there. Hey, let me throw to Dalton Schultz, who's my 4th option. No. He's going to throw to it. So why are you having him hold the ball? And he's not a quarterback. He's not a quarterback who needs to be taught how to go through his progressions. Now, if you're trying to teach that to Davis Mills, that's one thing. But you don't need to teach that to CJ because CJ already knows how to go through his progression. So I said, okay, that's not smart. And then it was it had to be early in the season when I asked him a question about CJ, I'll never forget, because I kept saying, hey, man, how come it looks like CJ can't audible? Like, this looks like when Matt Schaub was with the Texans and Gary Kubiak was because Matt Schaub tells a story and Kubiak wouldn't let him audible.
That's the same thing. It's the Shanahan scheme. It's ironic. They try to make the life easier for the quarterback, but like you mentioned earlier, when your quarterback can handle it and you handcuff him, you end up having the opposite effect.
Yes. So
frustrating.
Right. And so I was like, I said, Bobby, does CJ have the ability to audible, or it just looks like that he doesn't have the ability to audible, and they're getting to the line. I don't think I said anything about the line. Let me take that back. I said it just doesn't look like he has the ability to audible and something else. And then Bobby's like, yeah, something to the effect of, man, we be celebrating big plays too much, and that's what takes us longer to get out the huddle. And I'm saying to myself, bro, what big plays you talking about? Because They don't. It ain't like you're having like big plays all the time. Like this is happening frequently. Where are these big plays you're talking about where you can't get out of the huddle? He also said during the
That was
season,
a separate issue, and that was not why. It was just because you're probably taking too long to call the freaking play, and the play is probably this freaking long.
so,
We're not dumb, bro.
so what did I tell? What did I say during the season? I said Bobby is only doing what he's seen his former predecessor do. I'm sorry, not his former predecessor. He's only doing what he's seen
He's been taught.
His former head coach when he was in San Francisco do, right? And I said, this is the problem though. Go back and listen to Matt Ryan. Go back and listen to Matt Ryan talk about go back and listen to Matt Ryan talk about the Super Bowl. You remember when they said, hey man, how come they just didn't run the ball 3 times and then kick the field goal, right? I don't know. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
He said, why didn't they just run the ball and then kick the field goal? Because on that play, I think he may have gotten sacked. Then there was an incompletion, and then something else happened, and then during the Patriots comeback.
Yep. Yeah.
What Ryan said was, I could not audible when I got to the line because
that's crazy. It's the same shit going on. I'm sorry.
Kyle Shanahan was calling so many long plays that
that's
during the play, the mic would cut off while he's still trying to talk to me. So he's still trying to talk to me, and he's calling all these long plays. So I get to the line. I don't have time to look at everything, audible out to get everybody where they need to be, because he kept calling these long plays, making us get out of huddle. So that's
wild, man.
Hey, man, that's the exact same thing that's happening to CJ. And he's calling all these long plays and all these long, these long second and third plays. By the time they get to the line, CJ like, well, shit, I can't do nothing but run the play now. And the defense like, yeah, we already know what's coming, bro. So
yeah, and they line up in a known tendency, so you can't audible. Yeah, and what's funny too is like the Shanahan scheme, league wide, majority of the schemes all struggled this last year. Like they kind of figured out most of them was these, like you talk about delayed blitzes or even like nickel blitzes and simulated pressures and stunts, like all this simple stuff they figured. Yeah, and it all comes back to like disjointed communication. Like I don't know, it's just
and that's
what adjust.
That's why before the Minnesota Vikings game, Brian Flores was like, yeah, I respect, CJ and this, that, and another. But basically, he was just like, bro, I've seen this offense too many times. I know exactly how to stop this offense. This ain't nothing new. And they do the same thing San Francisco do, and I know how to stop San Francisco's offense. So, yeah, next question, please. He didn't say all that verbatim, but
that was one of the worst mismatches I've seen from a DC versus an OC. I mean, that was bad, bro.
Stressan, hold on now before we get up out of here, because I got to ask you this question. I asked John this question. I'm going to ask you this question. Do you think right now, present day, that the Houston Texans are as talented right now as they were? Their roster is as talented now as it was last season. And not only that, how do you feel about the offensive line acquisition and free agency? Because I know you've heard my take on it, and I'm not going to rehash it. For those of you all who hadn't heard it, I don't like none of the offensive linemen that Nick picked up. Not a one to start on this team. So am I on something or am I on to something?
Well, I mean, like, so talent, like, I mean, I guess if you factor in like guys like Stingley, Kamari, Kalen, like if you look at them, like, okay, compared to themselves, like a year older, they're obviously better, but O-line, the talent evidently is not as good. LT's gone. Well, compared to what we thought going into the year, and then receiver, obviously we had going into the year, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, they're both gone. So you got Christian Kirk, but there's still a void at, the Z receiver. So obviously lacking there. Linebacker, I think we're good. D-line's pretty much the same, I would say. We still need a nose tackle though. I think we're going to draft one. And then, Yeah, secondary is locked down. We got CJ Gardner-Johnson, so that's an improvement. I would say overall the same, if not a little bit better. The O-line is not as talented, but like we've talked about, just from basically a new coach, a new scheme, a seeming change by D'Amico for a different type of mentality of like a type of player, we're better off. And the one thing I do like about the O-line is, it's funny because that first year in Slowick, it was like a patchwork O-line, and they were pretty good. So all of us leading up to the next year, we're like, okay, we're getting all of our, big dogs back, top paid, top drafted O-linemen. It's going to be awesome. And it was 10 times worse. But I think part of that too was, on top of the scheme being terrible, was these guys had these jobs waiting for them and there was no depth behind them. And so they were fat and happy. I mean, this is kind of an assumption, but it kind of seems like how it played out. So whereas this year it's a complete opposite. Now you got a bunch of veterans and people that are dogs and fighting. Like, they just created a massive competition. So like now we're going to have guys that have iron sharpening iron and, improve each other, as opposed to last year, just like, hey, I'm good. If I mess up, like, what are you going to do? Like, that's an assumption, but long answer. I think we're slightly overall more talented. O-line is less talented, but I'm still more optimistic about it.
Oh man, listen, let me tell you, you're way more optimistic when it comes to. So I think that the talent level is still there, but obviously, losing Tank and losing Stephon Diggs, so not knowing that, I don't think that Christian Kirk is.
But should we wait till after the draft though?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just talking about present day, but also like Stressan, just I look at it like this. So if they make a move to jump up, this draft to me isn't this draft to me is top heavy. And even though you can get some good players in the later rounds, don't get me wrong, there's still some talent, but the top talent is just a top heavy. And then after you get out of that, first round, that middle second round, now you're looking at guys who are going to get on the team. And like you said, Nick said today, it's hard to make this team. The Texans need day one starters. And unless you go up and get those day one starters, then you're just bringing in guys to compete for a position. And when we're talking about competition, when I look at, I'm going to say this. I'm not a huge Cam Robinson guy. I watched him when he played with the Jags. I watched him get abused later in the season. When he first got to Minnesota, of course, he looked good. But then as time went on, he just started to not look good later on. And then, I mean, we see what happened in the Rams game. What's the guy's name? Is Verse, right?
Jared Verse of the Rams, yeah.
Ooh. Did you see what he did to Cam Robinson?
Yeah.
So I'm not, and he just doesn't, like, I don't know if I want him protecting CJ. I don't. I would rather, like, if I'm going to take an opportunity, I'm going to throw Laramie over. I mean, I'm going to throw Titus over there because Titus has played that position before.
That's why I was surprised he went and signed 2 left tackles after that trade. I thought for sure it would be Titus.
Cam Robinson, and he has a injury.
Brown.
Yeah, I was gonna say he has an
patella tendon injury, which is the same one that Josh Simons from Ohio State's kind of getting knocked for. I was like, okay, well, we got the same thing.
Right. And so I'm just not impressed. Like I said, I've watched and I've talked to people in Jacksonville, and they just was like, no, Cam should have been. They should have tried to unload Cam a long time ago. Laken Tomlinson, hey man, you're an Iron Man, but I just don't really know what you've done. So maybe, and like I said, all of this can change. We could be here in July. You could have me on the show in August, and I could be like, man, I was dead wrong in what I said in April. But that Ingram, right? So I get it. I understand.
But you're probably like me though, and most of us, like, there were other names out there that we would have liked to see, like Zeitler or Mekhi Becton, or obviously there's some more expensive like Will Fries. Like, we wanted something like that, but we got like these bargain shopping. Like, they're taking like the D-line approach, it seems, these extreme value veterans. But so basically, to me, they're betting on coaching. They're betting on Kaylee. So it's a gamble.
We're getting close to Easter. He better be able to walk on water. But Ingram, right?
Ed Ingram,
Ed Ingram got benched for inefficiency. Like Kevin O'Connell said, hey, he's not effective, so we're going to go with this other guy. He was healthy. He was a healthy scratch. He got pulled. And then Hunter, what's the other guy? Trent Brown. I was about to call him
Trent
Hunter
Brown.
Brown. I got baseball on my mind. Trent Brown. He only played 3 games last year, and one of the knocks on him is he can't stay in shape.
Yep.
So now, what type of competition is that? What are you developing? Well, we got guys on 1-year deals who are going to be hungry, and they're going to try to get them, and they're looking for a long-term deal. Okay, I get that part. Never seen these guys play like in person on a consistent basis. I don't know what they're going to do in training camp. I'm just saying, from talent-wise, when I'm looking, I'm saying,
oh, for sure.
How come y'all just didn't go with Blake Fish at right tackle, Titus at left tackle, Juice at right guard?
And maybe that's where they wind up, which is funny. Like, that's what I'm thinking in my head just now. Like, it may shake out that way, but like, why waste all that time?
Right, Jared Patterson at center, and you still have Ladarius Henderson, who you're getting back, who's still going to come in and have, like, he's still like, his body is fresh. He's still a rookie. So I'm like, and you go out and you get these guys to back them up. But I'm just like, present day at that offense, if they had to play right now, I can't see them winning no game.
But the money they gave those guys too, like Cam and Trent Brown, like, you would think, oh, they could just sign them and cut them, but like they signed them like pretty decent money, so it's like they seem like they're kind of committed. But I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic fan. Like the whole convo we just had leading up to that. Like, I really think a majority of it was the coaching and the scheme, the one voice. We're running zone scheme, should run gap scheme, the play calling. It all goes into it. Like the stuff we talked about with CJ not audibling, not having hot routes, that all goes into it. We're constantly in 3rd and longs and 2nd longs because of that. We're getting tackles for losses on runs. Like, I think it's a whole lot, but it is, as a fan, like, it's a lot to gamble on. Okay, let's fix. I forget who I was talking to. I had a guest on, but he's like, you have all these unknowns and you're hoping you get all those fixed to make this all work. So I don't know.
Look, and you're going to have a motivated Titus Howard. And one reason I say you're going to have a motivated Titus Howard, because nobody in their right mind would have ever thought that the Houston Texans would trade Laremy Tunsil. 5-time Pro Bowler, guy who is by far one of the best left pass blocking left tackles in the game, and they traded him. You're saying to yourself, wait a minute, hold on. If I'm Titus, I'm like, because him and Titus are best friends too, and it's like, well, wait a minute now. Well, he's the most talented guy we had on our line, and they got rid of him.
I didn't entertain the thought because of that.
Right, and then Titus is also going to be going into this is his last year of his deal, so he's going to be looking for an extension.
He's got so I think he has 2 years. So like next year would be the year, but they just restructured him too. So like typically when you restructure somebody, that means you're committed to him, because now you just converted his base salary to bonus. And that means you have more dead cap, financially. So that's a whole head scratcher too.
Yeah. So he's definitely going to be and he's the veteran. He's the big vet in the room now. Like he's the
de facto leader, right?
Right. There's no Shaq Mason in there. There's no Laremy Tunsil in there. Like it's him, and now they're going to be looking at him. I put it like this: they're going to be looking at Titus Howard like they're going to be looking at Nico this year. Hey, man, both of those guys at some point. So I feel like both of those guys should have a C on their chest. Definitely Nico. Definitely Nico. I wouldn't be surprised if Nico was not named the captain. But I need Titus Howard to come in with that mindset of, hey, man, it's my turn now. Now it's my turn to lead this room. And he worked with Cole Popovich and they say, hey, we're going to get this thing together because I got Juice looking at me. I got Fisher looking at me. I got Patterson looking at me. And whoever we bring in as far as the draft picks are concerned, because, those other guys they brought in the free agency, nobody, like these players don't know those players like they know Titus.
That's a good point too. And like, basically by their actions, what they did, like they basically are empowering him and telling him like, hey, we believe in you. So that can, actually kind of motivate him to become that, player in that role. So that's a great point. I mean, I like it. And then, someone said here too, like some of the young linemen, like I could see Juice Scruggs being a viable guard. I mean, but like, still we have a lot of options. We have a lot of guys that can play a lot of different positions. But like as a fan, I get it. Like it's concerning. We don't know. Like I'm just having like blind faith and trust in the process, which call me dumb. But we'll see.
No, you're not dumb. Listen, I put it like this, man. Everything starts and stops with DeMeco, and if you believe in DeMeco, then you can believe in the Houston Texans, and you could believe in what the Houston Texans are going to do this season. Now, as far as expectations are concerned, well, I don't know if they're because their expectations, of course, is to win a Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or if that's a viable thing for them this season, depend on what happens as far as who they get, how healthy they can stay. AFC Championship, I feel like is a more attainable type of goal, but it's going to take a lot. And what I mean by it's going to take a lot is that they're going to have to all be on they're all going to have to be on the same page. They're all, and it's not going to, the defense is set. Nobody is worried about what
baby.
Gonna do.
Super Bowl caliber defense.
Right. It's that offense. And like, I just feel like if I'm Nick Caley, I'm coming in and I'm saying, okay, look, whatever Bobby did, cool. Look, Bobby's my friend. I don't have nothing against Bobby, but whatever Bobby did, scrap that. Let's throw this out the window. Hey, listen, we're gonna put in this entire new scheme. And I would sit down with CJ and be like, hey, look, you're in year 3 now. I don't know why the guys didn't trust you. Cool. They probably didn't trust you because you was a rookie your first year. Second year, I have no clue about. But let's sit down and let's talk about what are you comfortable with. And now we're going to start off with this base package of what you're comfortable with, and then we're going to build on that.
Sky's the limit, baby.
By the time we get to week 7 or 8, what we've built up is what we can we can make wrinkles here and there and make in-game adjustments. That's another thing, Stressan, real quick. That's another thing I didn't like about Bobby. Bobby never made in-game adjustments.
Oh, terrible. Yeah. I mean, and then when y'all asked him too, it was like the answer wasn't great, but yeah. And then but part of the adjustments too can be like we talked about earlier, like they can be built in, like the routes, like it can be already built in. But like to your point though, like I think about like you mentioned, I mean, even game to game, there was no adjustments. Like we talked about, defenses running stunts. But one thing that comes to mind too is the Lions game, and it may have happened sooner, but they figured out on our zone blocking on our wide zone that Mixon always cut it back because the blocking was always terrible. And so they just would leave like a robber or a backer on the backside and just wait for him. And that was it. And then we never adjusted to that. Right. So like if they start to do that, then now you can start to play off their over aggression. So yeah, I mean, we just, yeah. I think we agree, man. I mean, this has been awesome. So it's been an hour and 50 minutes already. Normally, no, this is dope, dude. Like I could do. This is awesome, man.
Hey, man, have me back, man. I definitely love to come back, man, because I would love to come back in because we still got we didn't talk about Kaylee's specialty as far as tight ends is concerned. We're not talking about is this a bounce back year for Brevin Jordan? How can Cade Stover be used more? What motivation is Dalton Schultz? How are they going to motivate Dalton Schultz? And I think that by having a coach who has coached his position, going to be like, hey, man, I've coached a Hall of Famer, bro, and Rob Gronkowski. So, I mean, yeah, man, you got to have me back on so we can talk about
have me on y'all show too if y'all ever have a guest. But I mean, there's a lot I still want to get off. But it's been a great convo, man. Like, I mean, and so for those who didn't get in, I encourage you to listen to the whole thing. There was a point about halfway through where Sarge gave his story, and I learned a lot about you, and that was a cool story. So thanks for sharing that with us. And then yeah, of course, I should have shouted out, but your handle on the bottom there, it's at Big Sarge Sports with the Z, right?
Yep,
and that's on both X and Instagram. And then obviously you want to plug your podcast, Locked On Texans with John Hickman.
Yep, we're Monday through Friday, Locked On Texans podcast, available wherever you get your podcast from. And we're on YouTube as well, so make sure you please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then I also do on my YouTube channel at Big Sarge Media. I also do a show. It's in the mornings I'll just do a sports talk with Big Sarge, but in the afternoons, I normally do a Texans happy hour. So I'll hop on there and we'll just talk Texans type stuff. Now that the Rockets have their stuff set and the Astros are out of town, I'm probably going to do 1 or 2 of those before the game, the Rockets game on Sunday. So, especially with what Nick giving us that 8,000 word dissertation today, I'm going to some things that he talked about during this press conference. But yes, if y'all can join the Texans happy hour in the afternoon, I would really appreciate that as well. Do you
Yeah,
think?
I'll be sure to tap in and like, if I can ever do anything to help out, like, what I try to do is like I've been fortunate to build a platform so quickly as I try and, share the love and
Sure.
shine light on, and that's what I do. Like on Tuesdays I do like a Texans content creator spotlight, but
Yeah,
yeah, we'll be sure to tap in and yeah, we
yeah,
didn't
man.
even talk about Rockets, so we'll have to make that another one too. I know you cover the Rockets, but
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I don't got too more much to say. I mean, actually I do, but yeah, I don't want to keep you, man. I know it's been a while and you gotta get up at the gym in the morning. So
sure, man. But like I said, man, have me back on, man, and I'll definitely you and I we can coordinate that if after the draft,
yep.
because you're one of those guys like AD, man. I love AD, bro. AD got that
Shout out
mind.
AD. AD was in the chat earlier. He was talking to us. I don't know if you saw his comments, but he was
Yeah,
he was saying story hour with Big Sarge.
yeah, he probably had to leave because AD be on the blue pills, if you know what I mean by that. So
Uh-oh.
it's probably boom chicken wow wow time with his wife.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. Like I say it every time, but like this is my favorite thing about what I've been doing is like the friends I've made, like the colleagues, whatever you want to call it. But like it's dope, man. Like the community is awesome. Like nothing but good people, and we
Yeah,
all have one thing in common. We're passionate about the Texans, so I mean it's awesome.
yeah, for sure, man. Once again, thank you for having me on, brother. I appreciate that.
All right, Big Sarge. Well, yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. I had about 1,000 people, and if we didn't get to your